learning how to communicate digitally is the most important skill we can be learning.
You need a website, you need business cards, right? That's where people think that they need to start first to have an official business or to feel like they're credible. It's just not true.
Develop a relationship of trust and then listen to the customer, help them solve their problems.
Confidence comes from competence, and competence goes back to practice.
Welcome to a special edition of BSVP on Site. So let's get into the show.
Well, we've been getting to know each other in Clubhouse. I love what you're doing here, helping people really expand their video knowledge. And quite frankly, Bruce, I think that learning how to communicate digitally is the most important skill we can be learning in the coming months and years. So I'm thrilled to sit here for a few minutes with you and talk about it.
Excellent. And as far as who you are, what you do, I think one of the key things is that you promote the fact that you make podcasting simple. And in my teaser, we talk about cold calling and how you should stop making cold calls because they have no idea who you are and they have no idea what your product is. With podcasting, you're like a national person and you're creating a name for yourself and they actually come to you.
Well, it creates credibility. I mean, how many times if you answered a phone and it's like your car's extended warranty is expired, like it's pointless. But if you get a call or if you get a LinkedIn DM from someone and I can click on their bio, their page is very clear as to what they do and who they serve. And then I can listen to a couple episodes or a couple videos or a couple podcast episodes about this person. You get to feel like you know them and you build that know, like, and trust, which is so important that is impossible to get across in a cold call.
Business cards, right? That's where people think that they need to start first to have an official business or to feel like they're credible. It's just not true. I mean, unless that's really where you're being led to go. But most of the time people aren't. They're still clarifying who they're going to speak to. They're still clarifying their message. So why are we going to invest all this time and all these resources into putting this together? And then you end up shifting that. So for example, when I first started Sales from the Heart over 8 years ago, I thought I was going to be serving sales professionals because I was in that industry for so long. But the more that I got to speak with these sales professionals, I realized, that's not who I'm called to serve. I'm called to serve more service-based businesses, coaches, entrepreneurs, small businesses, acupuncturists, chiropractors, things like that, therapists, gym owners, I work with a franchise, a fitness franchise, for many years as well. And so I just began having more conversations with people to explore who is it that I really truly want to serve. And so I'm glad I didn't do all that, although I probably sat on this for a little bit longer than most without having some of the website and some of the other traditional automation. But I actually was able to really utilize a platform and ways of connecting with clients that really served me. So I did do some speaking on stages. I did do radio as well. I did social media in a non-traditional way. And I made a lot of connections and I do get quite a bit of referrals. But you have to see what's going to work best for you and your lifestyle and what your goals are.
One thing that I always worked on when I was in sales was, develop relationships with people, help people, listen to the customer. And, that's kind of what worked well for me was, develop a relationship of trust and then listen to the customer, help them solve their problems. And, I'm very, very good friends even to this day of customers that I've dealt with for years. In fact, that first customer in that distributor in California, in Los Angeles, they're still one of our customers, and he and I are very, very good friends to this day. So along the way, we built a lot of friendships and then sold a few ladders too as well.
That's actually, I think, isn't that your motto? Building friendships over.
So there's a little sign out on Little Giant on the front of the building that says, if you concentrate on building the business and not the man, you will not succeed. But if you build the man, you achieve both. And so really that was my father's philosophy is, hey, let's build the men and women of the company. Let's help them to grow. Let's help them to to learn and become, more than they were, and help them to really see their potential. And along the way, they help us build product and sell it, and it served us very, very well. My dad was a really smart guy, really smart guy, but he was so good with people. People were so loyal to him because of the way he treated them, and with kindness, and just the way he took care of his employees. Then they in turn, helped him to build a big company, and we did well.
Like so many things in life and in our professions, Bruce, and in our hobbies, I think if a person has a high level of interest in something and is willing to learn and apply a hardworking work ethic, they will be successful.
Excellent. And so you kind of alluded to how people are training and learning. As far as sales goes, you kind of outline your philosophy in your book, which is more preparation. There's no longer what we call cold calling, because
Correct.
good preparation is not going to be cold call. And
Yeah,
can you walk us through this process?
So, what I always say there, Bruce, is that you can slice and dice sales any way you want. This is a way that makes sense to me. And one thing I do write about this in Selling by Serving, I avoid and encourage all salespeople to stop using the term cold calling, because it just doesn't sound like fun, right? I mean, if I said to you, Bruce, let's go out and cold call for 6 hours, it's like saying, let's just go out and get the cold shoulder and get rejected and beaten down. That sounds great, huh? And then we'll go, celebrate.
Well, let's go talk. Well, and in some cases, people say, let's go talk to people we've never talked to before, who have no idea who we are, what we do, what our value is, and try to, as we open up the show with, hit them over the head with our message.
Yeah. And I think perhaps the most valuable advice I can offer, especially to a new salesperson, is stop using that term cold call, because it's fear-inducing to me. Let's use the term introductory call. We're going to go make introductions. And when I talk about, thank you, Michelle, when I talk about introductions, I'm not there to say, hi, Bruce, my name is Clancy Clark. I work with XIZ company, and I want to talk to you about our company and our products and how we, help people in your industry. Because all you're going to hear is, from me, you're going to hear I, me, my company, my products. And you're immediately a little put off by that, I think. And if I come in and say, hi, Bruce, my name is Clancy Clark. My reason for coming here today was to meet you. And I'd like to begin to develop a relationship with you, learn about you, your business, and in time tell you a little about what we do and see what potential we have for a mutually beneficial business relationship. How does that sound? And I've always found people open to that. Now, you may say, I'm busy, don't come, not today, or, come back next month and don't call on me more than once a month. You may set a lot of parameters, but in 30 years, I can count on one hand the number of people who have ever just flat out said, no, don't come back, when I use that approach. And it makes it so much more enjoyable to think, I'm going to go out and meet new people. That's the worst that's going to happen today, is I can make some new friends.
Great announcement today. You actually got a role in the movie The Matrix. I understand that. It being April Fool's Day, that you're working with the Oracle now, right?
I like how you put that. Wow, that was an interesting connection. Basically, that's a role that goes back to influencer marketing, but they're looking for someone to help create content, produce content, lead events, advise them. How can we better serve small business owners and especially high growth startups? How can we better serve them? And that's my role, and that's what I'm doing with them. And that was announced just today. It's on Smart Hustle and all my platforms. But thank you for acknowledging that. I think it's big. And I think it shows, Bruce, as well, that we small businesses can still do big things. We small businesses are still in demand by bigger brands. And I think that's what that shows amongst anything.
And how did they find you? Did you reach out to them, or did they reach out to you?
Oh, and yeah, they reach out to me. And that's how most of my deals come. And I'm not saying this because I'm anything, but going back to that aspect of Bruce, of being the celebrity CEO, I think that as you build your fan base and community, you probably have to do very little outbound marketing. If you're dialed in real tight To your core audience, everybody knows you. Everybody knows you. And when they need something, they're going to come and find you. So no, I didn't have to go hunt them down. They found me. And it wasn't that role. We've already been in conversations. I work with many large brands. That's what I do. So, all the tech brands, global brands in the world who are reaching small businesses, they know Ramon for sure.
So you're saying is you start off with them on a small basis here and there. You got to know them. You met up with them at a conference or something like that?
Cover events and things of that nature. Yep. So the relationship was there. And I think part of that's a good thing. It's just like, the relationships we have between humans, right? Some guy and girl, they know each other. The question's no longer anymore, can I trust you or not? The question's more so, what can we do together?
Yep. So I guess that's part of the posting and creating content is you're out there, they get to know you. And then when they have that need, you're the person that comes to mind.
That's right. That's exactly right. Or me, or at least a very narrow. They're not looking around, who can help us? Who can help us? Hopefully my name was on their lips. And it happened just today. Somebody emailed me, a good friend of mine. He said, Ramon, I'm looking for someone to help me with LinkedIn. Now, there's a billion LinkedIn people out there, but immediately, with no question, 4 people came to mind. Joe Applebaum, Beth Granger, JD, Phil Gerbishak, and I think there was one other person. You see how even I rattle that off now? Because they're right in my mind as being LinkedIn experts. And I can, because they're in my face, I'm in their flow. And so I can easily recommend them to anybody who says, Ramon, and Mark Halpert, Ramon, we need a LinkedIn expert. These 5 people, instantaneously, not even a question.
So yeah, also on my list is Bryn Tillman and Vivica von Rosen.
And it was at a Tony Robbins seminar where I'm watching this guy, and I wasn't even aware I was doing this. He's on stage, and there's like thousands of people, and he's got them in the palm of his hands, and he was pretty funny too. He was very entertaining, and I was very aware of that. And something made me pick up my pen and write down, I can do this. That's what I wrote, not even aware I was writing it. And I put the pen down, and I guess maybe another 15 minutes went by, and I wrote down, I should do this. And then I put the pen down. And then all of a sudden, another maybe 10 or 15 minutes went by, and I picked it up again, and I wrote, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I still have that paper framed in a glass in my office. It's in a frame. And I did it. And that was at the pinnacle of my comedy career. It wasn't overnight. It just stuck with me. I told my manager, it was about a couple of years later when I was on this self-help quest, that I had to do this. I couldn't wait anymore. And this is when the industry was very interested in me, but I was no longer interested in them. So I remember my roommate was Drew Carey, and I was talking to him about switching careers, and he was dead against it. He said, you can't. And that one night when I came home from an audition, he said, how did your audition go? I said, it was great. And he goes, so what do you want to do for dinner? I said, you do what you want. I'm packing my stuff up. I'm moving back to Long Island, and I'm getting into the speaking business. We had a big argument. And he said something to me, which I'll never forget. You can't leave now. You're so close to making it. I said, if I don't want it anymore, I'm not close to making anything. I'm moving further away from what I really want to do. And I know in a way it didn't make sense to me, but you always have to follow your heart. And it was frightening to do that because I dedicated 20 years of my life as a comedian. And there I am making this shift, and it was the best move I ever made.
But you never really gave up that comedian portion, because when you're doing your motivational speaking, you include a lot of humor in there. And I think that's essential, even with those people who are serious, like a Tony Robbins, who's up there talking. Unless you have some sort of humor in there, it's basically facts and maybe some inspiration. But I think it's humor that really engrosses and really connects with your audience.
Especially, that's a great point. Especially today, where the attention span of the average audience is very, very minimal. And unless a speaker has some kind of entertaining value, you run the risk of losing their attention. And I've always realized that it's that humor, because it's there during my speeches. So I'm giving this very profound message, but they're enjoying themselves. And I always hear compliments like, gee, never have I laughed so hard and learned so much in one sitting, man. Thanks for the ride.
Nerves, I want people to understand that they're actually not a bad thing. You talk to any performer, I don't care if it's a musician, a comedian, someone that's on stage, an actor, actress, the nerves actually are there to help the performance. They make you sharp. They get your body, with adrenaline. Now, too much obviously will hurt you, but you'll get the body full of adrenaline, ready for a great performance, and you get that energy. So the best tip I can give people without going too long on this topic is confidence comes from competence, and competence goes back to practice. If you want to have a better handle on your nerves, it simply comes down to rehearsal. And you mentioned that you rehearse in your head. A tip I would give, Bruce, is there's an ear audio mouth connection.
Yep.
The subconscious mind will remember the speech more if you speak it out loud. So there is value into rehearsing it with internally in your mind, but when you speak it out loud, you can hear actually how you're coming across, and you can adjust your tonality and your vocal. But I'll end with this. Hall of Fame speaker Patricia Fripp said it best, that the work is in the preparation. The performance, when we deliver the speech, is the relaxation. So the more you prepare, and 98% of the success of any speech happens before you ever take that stage. So I think I made the point clear. Practice and rehearsal equals confidence, which in turn will give you competence.
What have you learned communicating with these people, or with people, and growing your community on Clubhouse? And are you all in on Clubhouse? Are you still active on Facebook and LinkedIn?
Oh my gosh. What I've learned is that I haven't had time to respond to all these people. I mean, I literally, with 9,000 people reaching out to me, and I'm following back 2,500, which is the most you can. I have not had I've got 400, probably now 500 DMs, people asking me, and luckily you kept on reaching out to me, Bruce. Otherwise we wouldn't even be here, because you were persistent enough to continue. I have other people that want to interview me as well. And then there's a bunch on Facebook, and then LinkedIn, and I'm getting more people viewing LinkedIn. I've been doing business, hosting business rooms with Isabella, and she's awesome. And we're having these really mindful discussions about business and about how to, as a business leader and the leadership roundtable, how are you effectively making an impact on those people around you in business, in real life? And so it's become difficult to manage a lot of that. And so I'm having to rearrange how I'm going to do that, and probably have to get someone to help me with that.
Yeah, I suppose if you start monetizing it, you actually hire someone to take care of your social media and answer the phones and the DMs.
Yeah, going to have to do something with a virtual assistant or someone to be able to help me with that. And lots of other people have already done that, but I'm doing it just like, you know what? That's a great analogy, is the YouTube channel. I started out with no videos whatsoever, and I get 100 followers. And now I've got all the followers on Clubhouse, and I don't have any structure around it. So I'll definitely have to look into getting some help from my wonderful people that I've made connections with now.
The first thing that I always tell people is you need to understand to believe in you and who you are. I can tell you all day, Bruce, you are awesome, amazing, fabulous. I just love you so much. But then you're like, well, I don't love myself that much, bro. Why are you getting, you're kind of going out the side of the door here. And if that's happening in your brain, if you even think that you don't have any purpose or anything or nothing to give, then that's where we start at. You have to start believing in you. And you have to take on and do a list. I always say, sit down in a nice atmosphere where there's not a lot of loud stuff going on. Maybe get with your family and sit there, take a pad of paper and a pen and write down everything you like to do that know that if nobody didn't pay you for it, you would still be happy.
Yep.
That's the first step. Because you got to dig into who you are, what you do. I mean, there's things that people say, well, Bruce, you do really well with, organizing. Some people don't even think that's a gift. That's a gift. I know a lot of people that need that gift.
Yep.
Bad. So, yeah.
And
So
a lot of times it starts out of what's called a side hustle or a hobby, and turning your hobby into a career and getting paid for it. Because if you're doing it for free, it's a hobby.
yeah.
Or a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with volunteering, but there's sometimes you need to actually make a living.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so that would be the first step. I mean, there's steps after that, but starting there, believing in you, writing down the gifts that you don't even realize you have, ask close friends, not friends that are trying to, I'm just going to be open and honest, that's not trying to sabotage or say, well, I'm just going to tell them that because they look like they're going the same way I want to go to. That jealous, all that stuff pops up. You don't need those gremlins in your head. You have enough of that with yourself. And just ask those real close people to say, okay, can you tell some things about me that maybe I don't realize of the gifts that I have? And believe me, you're going to find that they're going to tell you. And you're going to be like, really? Yep. So that's where you start.
So the most important thing is hand over fist to have a wallet strategy. A lot of people, especially where I spend time these days on Clubhouse, are very excited about hardware wallets and multi-signature applications where you need like 3 different keys out of the total of 5 to move your Bitcoin. There's a lot of different things you can do that are high-level security at the point of the wallet. My personal position is a little bit in the other direction. I like to coach people on digital hygiene. I think that if you're going to have sovereign and digital control of your assets, that means that you need to recognize that you've, now become more valuable as a digital entity online. If your email has the power to reset a password for a platform where you have $10,000 sort of virtually stored, then suddenly that email is kind of worth 10 G's. It's it's a risk paradigm to say, okay, I do want to have custody of my own assets. I don't want somebody else to custody those assets, but then I'm responsible for my own personal security because I'm my own bank at this point. So I think that the strategy is the number one thing. I am using more than 20 wallet products. I experiment with a lot. I don't like having all of my money in one place in the event that something went wrong. But I think the most important thing is a strategy, and most people are going to build that in the context of a hot wallet where they do most of their transactions. A sort of warm or a medium wallet where they would have, stuff that they would touch once a month, once every few months, and then a cold storage mechanism of some type where you pretty much only send money into it and never pull money out of it, or never as best you can, right?
Is there a difference between visibility, publicity, and exposure?
Exposure, difference between exposure, visibility, and publicity. Probably, I talk about really being discovered, right? Being discoverable is the power of media and publicity. We all want more exposure. We all want more visibility in the marketplace. And I think as most small business owners struggle, where they struggle is because they're creating engagement. And there's a difference really between engagement and exposure. There's a difference between being found and being findable and searchable and being discovered. And so the way I typically describe that, Bruce, is exposure is what happens on OPA, other people's audiences, right? They've never heard of you. They're listening to your podcast, Bruce. Like, they love you. They listen. You bring on great guests. You're a great interviewer. And they're listening to you and they discover somebody else because we were leveraging the power of exposure, right? Engagement happens when they've already heard of you. They're already following you on social media. They're already on your email list. And most of the time, what do? Is we just talk to the same people over and over again. But I teach a really fun formula of 2 + 1, 2 interviews a week, leveraging somebody else's audience, radio show, magazine, podcast, stages. and 1 press release a month will put you in front of 100 new audiences, create unlimited exposure, visibility, and help you to become discovered. Yeah, so if you're talking to the same audience, you probably do need to come up with something fresh and new. But this is a fresh, new audience. They've not heard your jokes. They've not heard all of your stats. They haven't heard your stories yet. So the brilliance of it is you only have to have 1 presentation. But I always say you have to be super passionate about what you're sharing, because you are going to be sharing it twice a week. And you want to be so passionate, excited, enthusiastic. After 100 stages, do you still love what you're sharing? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably in the right place. But this is really the brilliance. Most people have to have multiple presentations. They feel like they have to have a lot of different topics and subjects and the ways they go through it. Again, like you said, because they're speaking to the same audience over and over again. The brilliance of PR and OPA, one presentation fits all. Well, fits most. You customize it. You can tailor it every time. But the fundamentals and the foundation doesn't have to change.
Yeah, because here's Wes saying he's down with OPA.
Yes. We used to say OPP, right? But then everybody's like singing the song. And we're like, okay, I've got to change it so I can keep you with me. So it's OPA, other people's audiences. People are reading magazines, watching the news, listening to a radio show, and they discover you. That's the secret. We have to have all the marketing. We have to be on social, search engine optimization, all of that, so that when people are looking for something, they find you. But there's a lot of opportunity. Maybe they're not actually searching for you today. They're not looking for you. They just happen to be hanging out over here, reading this, listening to this, watching this. And then there you are, speaking their language, talking about their pain points, their challenges. They will check you out. Now they'll do that Google search. Now they'll follow you on social media. They'll connect with you on LinkedIn because they've discovered you. And now when they Google you, you want to make sure that you are easy to find. And so when you Google Angel Tuccy, it should be pretty easy to find me.
Content versus delivery, and define what the difference is.
So here's the thing. I was in a Clubhouse room, and it was Andy Henriquez hosted a room on a Friday afternoon. It was funny. I wasn't supposed to be a panelist, and he kind of popped me on at the last minute. And it's so funny because I was like, I am so going to go on team content. That is exactly where I'm going to go. And as I'm waiting for my turn, I'm listening to people, and somebody mentioned, well, structure is technically a delivery system. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, wait, that's technically true. Technically, structure is a delivery system. And I'm like, at first my reaction was, all right, fine, I'm going to go on delivery. As much as it kills me, I'm going to go on delivery. And I had to change my mind in the middle because I felt uncomfortable, because I really believe in content, and content is about your message, and your message is about your passion and what you really believe in. And I think that's what you need. That always is what you need to build upon. When you have something to say, there are a lot of people, I guess there's a lot of people that I've heard sometimes who are out there who are speaking, and they don't have anything to say, or I don't understand what they're saying at all. And so as a result, or what they have to say, I don't agree with. Or from that perspective, or their content isn't really there, or their message isn't there. And so to me, if you don't have that, you might as well just be a newscaster reading off of a script. In some ways, it's more acting, so to speak, than anything, or along those lines. And by the way, that's not to say anything bad about delivery.
Right.
I think delivery is important. I think delivery systems are important. I think how you deliver the content is important. I think how you do that is extremely important. Based on what you said, Bruce, I understand where you're coming from. And I understand how you could get to that perspective about delivery. Because, look, I get it. I do. At the same time, it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired of presentations where literally I'm sitting here going, what are you talking about?
And today we're talking about the audio for your videos. And if you want to visit our website, is bsvp.com/livestreamkit. And that will give you an outline of recommendations we have, not only for audio, but also for cameras and lighting. But we'll address lighting and cameras in a later episode. So here is the page of our live stream kit. And right now you hear me on a USB mic. If I switch to the laptop microphone, which is the built-in microphone, you're going to tell, you can tell the difference between this and this. It sounds a little bit more hollow. It sounds a little bit more distant. And if you ever watch any late night talk shows or newscasts, the guests usually do not have an external microphone. They're just going with whatever is available. But audio is actually an important part of your video, because if people can't hear you, they can't understand you, and they're not going to continue watching. Thank you for joining me on this special episode of BSVP On Site. And again, for more information, go to our live stream kit website, and have a great week.